You are listening to the Beyond Believing podcast. I am your host, Katie Ann. I am a certified life coach, a divorced mom to 5 amazing children, and I am here to share some love and encouragement with you about healing and moving on post-divorce as a Christian woman. Stick around after the show for some details on how we can work together. You are listening to the Beyond Believing podcast, episode number 1. Okay, if you're like, wait, what a second, did I just miss something? No, you did not. This is not an April Fool's joke, unfortunately. If you have not noticed, my podcast did not come out this week. And that is because my amazing and incredibly talented podcast manager, Maria, lives in northern Michigan, which has been affected and impacted severely by the ice storms there. And she, unfortunately, has been out of power for over a week and is currently focusing properly on just staying warm and safe. And while I do have new episodes coming for you, for the sake of my sweet manager's situation, we are replaying episode number 1 for you this week to help remind us all what this thought work is about. I did consider editing my new podcast myself, and then I realized how many little pieces are required to do so, and my appreciation and admiration for her skills and talent has just been magnified. Let's just say that. So I am praying for my sweet, amazing Maria to continue to be safe and warm. My new series, Lessons from the Father, will continue with what God has taught me about his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as soon as she is in a place to be able to focus on not basic survival skills. So, as always, if you have a prayer request, please contact me at my email or on Instagram. Both of those links can be found in my show notes. And if you haven't yet taken the time to leave me an honest review, please do so. It really helps me understand your needs and what does and does not resonate with you. All of my love and prayers for you, friends. Have a great day. Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome to episode 1 of the Beyond Believing podcast. I am just going to be really raw and honest with you and tell you that I have imposter syndrome pretty big right now. I have recorded and planned and edited and changed this first episode countless times. We have pushed this back several times because I just have been feeling so inadequate about having my own podcast. And actually, the other day was just kind of complaining and praying with God a little bit of, Lord, how am I going to have my own podcast? I am too small, nobody of significance to have my own show. And what am I going to say? And what are people going to want to listen to? He interrupted my thoughts big, and I heard him say and remind me, nothing is yours. And just hit me pretty hard that I am giving myself a little too much credit and kudos here when this actually all came about, and I felt so compelled to share why I even wanted to have a podcast. And the reason I even wanted and felt compelled to share in the first place was because I had a pretty amazing journey with God, and coming to know Jesus of the Bible is not just a simple, small thing. It is life-changing, life-altering. And when I came to know Jesus of the Bible, it changed my life for the better, for my children's lives for the better. And the more I have come to know Jesus of the Bible, the more evidence and facts and connections I have made between the Bible and its teachings and Christ and who he is from the Bible, and the tools and resources I learned in my life coach certification training. And that, friends, is what I actually really wanted to talk to you about today, and what I felt was really important to be sharing with you. And that is, like I said, the difference between thoughts and facts. And what I learned about thoughts and facts through my life coach certification training was that thoughts are not facts. First of all, there are so many things in life that we have going on in our brain. We have about 60,000 thoughts every single day. 60,000. And the majority of those are on repeat. And we are not taught in the mainstream world anything about our thoughts. We are not taught to question them. We are not taught that they are optional to believe. We are not taught that we can actually control them. We are not taught to even be aware of the thoughts that we're having. And I will say, as I went through my coach certification, this was just mind-blowing information to me. And when I learned how to apply these tools, even just to become aware of the thoughts that I was having, it was like earth-shattering. And maybe I'm naive or maybe a little ignorant, and you have known and understood these things your whole life, and you're probably very unimpressed at this moment in time with my podcast, just 4 minutes in, that Katie, who are you and where have you been living and who raised you and what have you been learning all your life? I will say sheltered. I have lived sheltered and loved for sure, but just in survival mode. And I'm not saying there's any right or wrong way to have any of these things and have any of these awarenesses come about. And I will give one caution here. This is really just a reminder for myself as well, is that we have a tendency as humans to learn information. And when we learn information and recognize that we've kind of messed up a little bit on our journey here of life, and we're going to have to fix some things, we have a tendency to be a little bit hard on ourselves and maybe say, I wish I would have known this when, or I should have known this before. Or if I had known this, X, Y, or Z never would have happened in my life. As an example here, I will share, I've been going through this a little bit myself, wading through as my oldest daughter just turned 18. And I have frequently, as most of you parents can relate, when you have your first child, they're a little bit your guinea pig. A lot of bits your guinea pig. And I have just serious mom guilt about understanding how wrong I got it as a new mom, as a young mom, first-time mom with my sweet little guinea pig child who just turned 18 and is coming to an awareness that her mom got things wrong. And it's a pretty big piece of humble pie. I think it's designed that way on purpose, but the mom guilt has come in pretty heavy. There are so many things that I do wish I could go back and give that little version of my 18-year-old as a 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12-year-old, my first little girl, having to raise her with the tools and resources that I had, and recognizing now here where I am as a mom for her at 18, and I have 5 and my youngest is 6. And understanding that the mom I am for my 6-year-old is very different than the mom I was for my oldest when she was 6, and even my second and third when they were 6, and my fourth when he was 6, then my fifth when he is 6. I just want to remind you that the reason why we learn is not to beat ourselves up. So please just take information that you learn here, any awareness that you have here, and don't use it to beat yourself up with, especially not your past self who had different challenges and struggles and less information than you have right here today. And that, again, is just a reminder for myself as well. So I'm just going to throw that out there and just remind you, any episode that you listen to here, that I pray you hear what God wants you to hear and that you're able to take something of value from any of my content, any of these episodes you hear going forward. You just appreciate the access and the learning and remind yourself that the things you didn't know before does not make you any less than who you are today. But learning is not enough if we're not applying. So I pray that you will learn something and apply it into your life. That's my challenge for you as you're going about your day and your time and your experience and your journey on this earth, that you take whatever nugget that God has for you from this, God willing, and apply it and use it in a way that furthers you and the kingdom and the way He wants you to. And that is from a place of love and compassion and kindness and curiosity. And I hope to teach you a couple of those things here today. The first thing I really want to share with you about that is, again, that our thoughts are not facts. I'm going to go back to that. We can question and should question, I will say, everything that comes into our mind. And I will say this is something I learned as a coach in my certification training. But when this became really, really powerful for me was when I started to find it in the Bible and biblical examples of this over and over and over again. I want to share a little bit that I found with you, because there is a difference. And this is really important for you to understand in order to really apply what I think is what God has taught us. And I am just briefly going to back up here and remind you that in psychology, they teach us about having a higher brain and a lower brain. You probably have heard that somewhere on, even in an Instagram reel, you can hear all about how we have a higher brain and a lower brain. I actually like to call it our worldly brain and our godly brain. And these both have very significant roles in our lives. And I don't want to give an impression that neither is better than the other, because both of them are important and are needed and are necessary. One of them literally keeps us safe. Its whole entire job, the lower brain, or what I call the worldly brain, its job is to keep us safe and warn us of danger. It really wants us to avoid anything that's going to be quote unquote difficult or hard. That is danger to our brain. It's going to make your blood race a little bit, and it's going to tell you need to back up. And the point of that was really to keep us safe from danger, like a bear is chasing you. That is when you need your lower spontaneous brain to be like, run, we have to get out of here. But when it is not dangerous, that is not a very helpful tool for us. But a lot of us don't learn to differentiate that. Because when we, AKA, for example, are starting a podcast, our brain is going to tell us we're in danger and you need to run. What happens is we just prolong and procrastinate and delay that feeling. We prolong the suffering for ourselves unnecessarily. So we actually think we're getting away from danger and creating more stress and anxiety for ourselves. So we're not actually saving ourselves any suffering. So just want to point that out there. But our higher brain, or what I refer to as our godly brain, is in charge of like our delayed gratification. It's a long-term self-mastery, self-discipline. This is like the planner responsible part of our brain is what I call it. And its job is to help us push ourselves a little bit outside of the box. It's going to tell us when we are, for example, maybe wanting to set a health goal and we want to lose a couple of pounds, which requires some discipline. And it's really easy in the moment to plan out, hey, this next week, I'm going to go for an hour walk every single day, or I'm going to go to the gym every single day, and I'm not going to have anything that doesn't make me feel good. Sugar, my favorite is chocolate. We're going to go no chocolate. And that's a really easy part of our planner brain to put into action. But what happens when we're 2 or 3 days in and we don't want to wake up? Our lower brain is like, that's dangerous for us. We don't want to do that. And it's better for us to sleep in and get some beauty rest. So our higher brain, or that godly brain, has to come and take some charge and remind ourselves, hey, remember, we set this goal for ourselves and we really have this end result we want to create. And we committed to ourselves that we were going to show up this week and do an hour workout every single day. And we weren't going to do this for this entire week. And these two parts of our brain kind of go at war and contradict each other. If you never learn to be aware of that and to manage that and to be able to decide who's going to be in charge when, and then actually be in charge when it's the right time, it's a little bit uncomfortable. And I will say we as a society have kind of shied away from discomfort. We've let God be this God of love and kindness and comfort and feel good. And reality is that self-discipline is not very comfortable. But feeling not our very best, not achieving the goals that we set aside for ourselves, not living up to a standard that we want to live and have and achieve also does not feel good. It doesn't feel good to not show up and keep the commitments you make to yourself. It's time for us to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. You're listening to Beyond Believing on Conviction Radio. We'll be right back.
Did you know gambling is the fastest growing addiction in North America? Gambling addiction also has the highest number of suicides. Maria Simon never had any problem with gambling until she played around a few times on a gambling app and immediately succumbed to the algorithms and lure of big jackpots and dopamine rushes. At her lowest moment, Maria found herself in the gutter, every dollar gone and an addiction she couldn't break free of. Yet God picked her up and showed her that there was purpose in her pain. Slowly, she began to piece the brokenness of her life back together as she documented her journey and her recovery in her podcast and radio show, The Feeling Better. If you or a loved one ever succumb to the enemy's latest online addiction, Maria's 10-4 program can help identify God's truth behind the enemy's lies. This once average, contented country homesteader is now on a mission to help other problem gamblers fight the biggest spiritual battle of their lives. Tune in to The Feeling Better, an inspirational faith-based approach to overcoming gambling addiction.
Welcome back to Beyond Believing on Conviction Radio. I'm your host, Katie Ann. So I just want to point out that there are pros and cons to both parts of these. You need both parts of them. Neither one is better or the other, and you will find the most peace and satisfaction when you can come to peace with both parts of your brain. And what I also want to tell you is that our godly brain is intentional. Like I said, it's self-discipline. It's choosing on purpose ahead of time and then following up with those commitments. And when your lower brain wants to say, whoa, danger, you've got to be able to understand that, hey, this is just some discomfort I'm trying to avoid. And I recognize that it's just some discomfort I'm trying to avoid. But if I listen to that right now and I don't follow through on the commitment I made, I'm going to suffer some discomfort when I don't show up for myself. So that, friends, is what I want to help you understand just really briefly about higher and lower brains. I also want to share how this connects biblically. I said that there has been biblical evidence I have found over and over again, and this is what has been on my mind so much lately. In 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14, we are taught Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. This is where I want you to start paying attention. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 11 and 12, it says, "When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I gave up childish ways. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known," meaning by the Father. Now, a lot of us have heard and understand, take every thought captive, which is a great verse helping us understand the enemy, Satan, can give you thoughts, but he cannot read your thoughts. And this is where it can get a little tricky, is that little worldly brain is what I often refer to, and it helps me to think of as Satan in my brain. These are thoughts I need to take captive. Sometimes they are very helpful, but I have to discern and understand, is this a thought from God or is this a thought from Satan keeping me from doing something that is godly, that is going to help me become a man and give up those childish ways? I'm no longer thinking and reasoning like a child. And this is important for us to understand because a tool that I learned in my coaching is that our thoughts are what create our feelings. We have been taught our whole lives by society that people around us, things around us, situations and circumstances, what people say and do are what create our feelings. This is dangerous because it allows other people to have control over our feelings. The reason why I say it's dangerous is because it's giving away your power and your control over your feelings to other people. When you can differentiate this is why I shared this specific scripture. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. Because if you do not know how to put away childish things and put away the ability to be deceived and put away the ability for everyone else to be in control of your feelings, you're giving away all of your power, which is still reasoning like a child. And according to this scripture in Ephesians 4:13 and 15, it teaches us that properly equipped believers won't be like children who are tossed around by the ideas of the world, false doctrines, or the deceit of men. And this is what I refer to and have connected the actions in the world around us impacting our feelings because we act on our feelings. Everything we do is a result of what we feel unless we have learned some self-discipline and unless we have learned how to put those childish ways aside and give those up and have control over our thoughts, have some awareness of, oh, hey, this is just my lower brain giving me a little like I need an out and an escape. But remember, if I give this up right now, I'm actually giving up my control. So what I want you to learn or want you to take away from this today is that you becoming aware of what's going on, your thoughts that you're having, helps you put back on that power, that godly power that He has equipped you with, that ability to take every thought captive, that ability to stop and consider, is this really what I want to think right now? Or do I have maybe a little bit of some godly wisdom in me that I would like to pay attention to more? And this brings up something else I want to talk about today. You cannot put out, you cannot change, you cannot apply knowledge you have not brought into your life. If you want to be able to learn how to be aware, you've got to learn some tools. If you want to learn how to question your thoughts, and give yourself some different thoughts, you're going to have to put some different thoughts in. Christ tells us when we put on the armor of God, we have those offensive tools to guard ourselves from those fiery darts of the adversary. And He tells us He is in us. We often hear new believers, aka myself, I am a fairly new believer, that we are changed when we accept Him and we are saved. We are changed from the inside out. And today while I was at church, my pastor shared something that just was a light bulb for me, like hit me like a lightning bolt. He was sharing about the condition of our hearts and that when our hearts are changed, our thoughts change. And this just hit me because I realized God is in us. He changes us because we start consuming God. We start consuming His Word. We start consuming and accepting His Spirit inside of us. And when we start having His Word in us, we have more of His thoughts in us to pull from and to guard ourselves and to share with others. So today, I want to, hopefully this all ties together, I promise for you, that you can understand, you can challenge any thought that's coming into your mind. If you can bring some awareness, and what you do by bringing some awareness, friends, is you start writing down what's going on in your brain. I do this in the mornings or in the evenings just to kind of unload what's going on. In the morning, I like to write out, what is my purpose in God today? Who does He want me to be? And in the evenings, I offload what is heavy in my brain today. And it helps me just bring some awareness of what's happening there. And then we have the ability to put God in us by consuming His word. We have the ability to acknowledge and discern between the thoughts from God and the thoughts from Satan that are happening and coming into our lives. And when you can recognize this, friends, you have power over your feelings and your emotions, and you have the power to decide who you are going to be in every single moment of your life. If that is not convicting enough for you and exciting enough for you, I hope you will keep listening and listen in for the next time. We have some more resources and tools I'm going to be sharing with you a lot about thoughts, what we believe, how they are impacting our lives, and what we can do when we recognize we have the power of God in us and we can act out on it. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you liked what you heard, I have a whole range of resources coming at you. You can find all the information in my show notes. But today, friends, I am going to leave you just with these thoughts, and I hope you will join me again for our next episode and keep learning along with me. Reach out anytime. I love to hear from my audience, and I would love to hear what you would like to know about and what your thoughts were from our episode today. Have a wonderful day. You have been listening to the Beyond Believing podcast. If you have enjoyed or benefited from anything you heard today, please take just a moment of your time and leave me a 5-star review wherever you're listening. This helps me to get my content out to you and keep it free. I love to help women and I love to share this message, and I want to be able to keep sharing it with you. So that would help me immensely. And if you love this episode, you're going to love working with me in my coaching program, Selah. Get all the details at the link in my show notes. I'm here to help you rebuild your future and write your post-divorce story. This is going to be the best season yet.